Oh yeah, take that off, otherwise you'll be moaning about that. Oh my god, I kept the thing on my arm. Hello, I'm Olivia. I'm a finalist at the University of Cambridge studying psychology, and this is my co-host.
Hi, I'm Dama, and I do photography at Arts University Bournemouth.
And we're your hosts of the mental health podcast Panic and Me.
And we hope you enjoy. So today we're going to be talking about being a student in the pandemic.
Yeah, because it's been a crazy time for all of us, I think, a little bit. And I think some students are feeling, slightly underrepresented by the media, and it's nice for us to have a forum to talk about ourselves really and our own experiences. So I think Dama and I were just going to start by really sharing our own experiences. And I mean, it's quite funny, isn't it, to think all the way back to the beginning of the pandemic. I literally remember looking online for masks and thinking, oh, if I brought one of these and wore it down the street, people would think I was, absolutely a little bit crazy.
That's what I was thinking as well when I was looking for masks. Yeah.
Because there was that kind of hysteria, wasn't there, at the beginning, and it felt like, oh, we've heard about Ebola and we've heard about other SARS pandemics, and then kind of all of a sudden it's I think in England we feel a little bit protected from some of the things that the rest of the world experience.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
Yeah.
And when the whole pandemic started, it was like, oh, it's fine, we live in such a good country, it won't even come to here. And then suddenly all in March, it just all happened. And I was a second year student at that time, and I felt so sorry for the third year students. They couldn't graduate, they couldn't finish their final projects, and the final project that we have is create an exhibition that you work towards for the whole time that you're at university. So I felt so sorry for them, and now
we're in that position.
We're in that position, and it's even worse because tutors feel like, oh, you've had like a whole year of it, but at the same time, it's like we thought it would be the end now.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember the days where we thought like literally 3 weeks in lockdown would be enough, and then we'd all be back to our normal lives, and here we are like almost a year later. And I mean, thinking like straight back to March, it's quite funny because I'm a student at Clare College in Cambridge, and we all live in student accommodation for the whole 3 years that we're here. So it's really been strictly regulated, kind of like when we have to go, when we have to leave. So I had what we call like a 9-month lease. So, I was staying there for the whole of the academic year. And during, everyone went home for, what was it? Was it the Easter term? It would have been the Easter term. And most people were gone. And then we kind of got this news that then we're going into a lockdown. And literally all I can explain it as was like an evacuation. It was literally like an evacuation. It was like cars coming, everyone chucking their things into their parents' cars and leaving. And unfortunately, I had to stay in Cambridge. So I was kind of chucked in the back of a van with all my belongings and taken to another site. And that would be my home through lockdown. So it was, an incredibly chaotic and kind of frantic time. And it's funny to look back at it and look at the panic. I mean, how was the lockdown announcement for you?
So it was fine. I guess my experience is completely different because I live in private accommodation, private house. So I have the house for 2 years, ever since second year. So I got to live there for the whole of second year and third year. So it was completely fine. It felt like, for a change, it was like something interesting was happening. But now looking back at it, I didn't think I knew that it was gonna obviously be this long. It was
just normal. I mean, I think that the pandemic hit me a bit quicker than it hit you, simply because I was moved. I was moved away from the place I was calling home, put into a new room, and I was completely on my own. There was only 18 students left in my college. So it was incredibly quiet, and I mean, the college done their best to kind of look after me, but it was, incredibly isolating. And luckily, Dana and I had the opportunity to volunteer on kind of online initiatives, and we joined a lot of coffee mornings, and that was what made a lot of friends.
Helping people that are in not very nice COVID situations, who need a bit of help and things like that.
Yeah.
How did you find your uni projects? How did you find studying?
Yeah, so obviously we have very different experiences, don't we, with our subjects. So mine in psychology in Cambridge is very essay based. You know, it's a lot of writing, really reading and writing. And luckily, well, not luckily, but what happened was the university decided that second year exams would become what they call summative, I think, which basically means they don't mark it, and it was just for practice. So we actually kind of we could opt out, so it was very, very nice to have that option. Because I was stuck alone in a college room for 13 weeks or whatever by myself, I decided obviously to kind of opt into the exams, except one of them. And they were turned to open book exams, or online open book exams. I had 2 3-hour exams, and I also had a 24-hour exam. And the 24-hour exam was supposed to be, I think you're supposed to spend kind of 6 or 7 hours on it. And because of my dyslexia, I get 25% extra time. So it was a little bit strange, because it wasn't like a normal year where you had kind of exam timetable. We were just given a month window in which we were supposed to spend 3 hours on this exam. And I done really well, actually, which I was really, I suppose, without all the distractions of having my friends around, except for kind of, online Zoom quizzes and a bit of volunteering and my degree. That was kind of all I had to keep me occupied. So luckily I did, manage to do quite well in my exams, but it was strange. And I know you had quite a different experience, didn't you?
So at the start, I quite enjoyed it because the clubs closed. There was a distraction of going out all the time, and my friends always loved to go out, so whenever there was an opportunity I would go with them. So it was finally time to actually settle down and get work done. And so I managed to get a good essay done. And another thing that was a bit off-putting is one of my projects I made on climate change, and I was going to hire out studios. I was going to get a makeup body artist, come and do paintings on people's bodies, represent all like the earth. And then obviously uni shut, can't go in, can't use any of the studios. I had to be a bit creative. So luckily we have a massive garden where we live, and there was a greenhouse that is like smashed up and everything. So I painted I used my housemates, painted on them and represent the 4 elements of earth, which represents climate change with the greenhouse. So I had to be a bit more creative and think outside the box more. But now it's kind of different because I know that there is a pandemic and I want to do different things, but I can't, and I'm very, very limited. Rather than when you're like, it just suddenly happens, you have to rethink everything straight away. Whereas now you're like, well, we don't know how long the situation is going to go on for, so it's a bit more difficult, I guess. But lecturers seem to find that, because we've been experiencing this for quite some time, that it is easier, but I kind of find it a bit more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you there, because like it's mentally worn me down. If anything, if I went into the pandemic with these mental resources, they've kind of been worn down at this point. And at this stage, we are basically just hoping that there's light at the end of the tunnel and that we can go back to our normal lives, I think. I mean, talking about that, kind of, how has it impacted your final year project? Because I think you wanted to go to Lithuania.
Yeah, so I don't think I can do the thing that I wanted to for my final project. So I'm going to have to rethink everything and try and decide what I actually want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, on a positive note, I actually love online lectures because I'm dyslexic. I can't keep up with the lectures usually when they're in person, and I have to go in and I record it, and then I go home and I have to rewatch it and pause it and actually take my notes that way. So now that they're kind of online, often a lot of my videos are pre-recorded and with like an active Q&A afterwards. It works for me so well because I can just sit there, pause, take my notes. And then if I have any questions, I can, go on the Q&A. But if I don't have any questions, I don't have to kind of sit through that. And, my degree is so intense that time is so precious. So it's really nice to kind of have that. I mean, I think something that was really, really affected probably for me in my final year was my dissertation, because a part of a psychology degree to get what we call BPS accreditation, I can't even say that word, but accredited by the BPS, which is the British Psychological Association, or something like society or something like that. You have to conduct like a research project. Obviously, you'd usually go, you'd interview people, you would, conduct the study. And because of the pandemic, that's not, really possible. So I'm doing my dissertation on birds. And I did actually get to meet the birds, which was really nice. But the researchers kindly conducted the studies previously and allowed me to have the video data, which I'm like currently analysing. But it's really strange to have to do kind of a project completely virtually, whereas usually you'd have to go and actually do the research yourself. So I would have had to go and work with the birds myself. And it's a shame that I don't get that opportunity, but at the same time, I'm very appreciative that we've, had the opportunity to do a dissertation at all, really. So, and I definitely think it's pushing me to be more creative and be a bit more resilient as well. I mean, has there any positives from the pandemic for you?
I find it nice because usually I would go in for a tutorial for 30 minutes and then come back home. So now I can do it online. I don't have to waste that time. I love going for walks and exercise, but it would feel like a waste of time going to uni for half an hour and coming back. So even for an hour lecture, I would feel like it's a bit of a waste of time when it can just be online. But because I have a creative course, going in and getting photo shoots and seeing people at uni and like chatting with them, going to the library, that's kind of the thing that I'm missing.
Yeah, I mean, we really are kind of minimised on that kind of social aspect. And I know we're all trying. Like, we went to your quiz night at your university the other evening. Tonight I've got a social on Gathertown, I think it's called, which is supposed to be quite good. And people are being really kind of inventive in how to socialise, but I think we're all just craving, a hug from the people that we miss, and to just be able, I know we all just want to be able to jump on a plane and go to Spain, but
we've been watching Benidorm.
Oh yeah. But we have to just knuckle down, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes I just sit there and I think there will be a time that I get to line up for a club again, or I get to get on a plane again, or I get to hug my my friends and my family again. And it's important to remember that those times are coming. And actually a really positive thing for me as well, again through the pandemic, has been the amount of people that have come into my life, because we're doing things virtually. I'm joining coffee mornings and I'm volunteering, and I actually moved into private accommodation so I could have a bit more stability, and people have come into my life who otherwise wouldn't have. And I think, we're big on gratitude, aren't we? And I think it's important, even at times that are just as crummy as kind of a global pandemic, to sit down and find the little positives in it. Really. Yeah,
definitely. Obviously a lot of people are going through a lot, so I see these things that I personally think when hard times come, that's when you see the real people are. But then at the same time I see a lot of people posting on social media like, oh, don't rely too much on people, you don't know what they're going through, kind of thing. But if you have each other, you do really get to see.
Yeah.
who the real people.
And I mean, there was that quote though, wasn't there? That was like, everyone needs more than anyone could give at the moment.
Yeah.
So also don't, because I find that I'm can be quite harsh on myself if I can't look after everyone all of the time. So it's important, to be kind to yourself and to other people, and try to support people, but only up to the point that you can, and that's okay. And we all will get through this, and we all will, get to the other side. And that's, really, really important. And I know for students, we're kind of told, what do you have to worry about? Well, a lot, our futures. Oh, I mean, we haven't even touched on kind of like worrying about job opportunities, and all of those kinds of things. And they're very, very valid worries. So don't let the world tell you that they're not, or the media or the government or whoever, because your worries are valid and your mental health does matter, and you need to take time to look after yourself.
Yeah, so we're just coming to the end of the podcast, and just give us a couple comments on how you're affected. If you have any worries, just some feedback from this would be great. Like for part 2 as well. And there'll be more to come. This is a great opportunity for us to
open up a conversation, I think, and tell us if there's anything, any tips you have on how to look after yourself as a student through the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
And we'll see you all again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.